Action. Hey guys, Bruce Kittle here, and coming at you with Week 7 as the Niners are preparing themselves for the Chiefs who are visiting here with us in Levi Stadium. We have a great show this week, and so I hope you really enjoy it. First up is Greg Olsen joins us with George, and we have a great conversation about National Tight Ends Day. So no coincidence that Travis Kelce is in town playing George and the Niners, and so two of the premier tight ends, at least in our books. And then Greg Olsen is calling the color on Fox Sports. So we're super thrilled with that. And those trio also are involved with Tight End University. So we chat a little bit about that, talk football, review the game. And we talk a little bit about open heart surgery as Greg's son had degenerative heart disease. And so a little bit about that and some things about that give us hope and youth sports. So anyway, do hope you enjoy that show. And then our second part is we were thrilled to have in the Waul family from Iowa, and daughter Sarah has been involved with George through the U of I Children's Hospital for 8 years now. So no more, like almost 10. Anyway, George knew her as a sophomore when he was at Iowa, and she was about 8 years old and had cancer. And then she was in remission and then came back. And so we got involved with her again through the U of I Children's Hospital again. And then about 15 months ago was diagnosed again. And in the midst of that diagnosis, had a fourth cancer. So anyway, but she's in remission again. And she's been on the list of being terminal cancer stage 4 3 times. And here she is. So we were thrilled to have her. And it's a very exciting and heartwarming story about the ups and downs and trials and tribulations of cancer. So, and again, reminder, if you're in the midst of that, there are resources available and you don't have to go through it alone. And it is a crazy, wild, difficult, painful ride. And all of you are in our hearts and our thoughts and prayers. So anyway, I hope you enjoy the show. Take care, be well, and look for more on Recipes from Wellness from our good friend Emma, who had a great joy this week. We did a Women of the Niners episode, and so I know you're going to see some posts on that. So wish you guys all the best. Go Niners, and we will talk soon. Check, test. I'm good. All right. Hey, guys, Bruce Kittle here, Hidden Pearls Podcast coming at you. Week 7 of the NFL. Niners are lining up to play the Chiefs. Some call it a revenge tour. Others just call it an ass whipping. Let's roll. Okay, we are super honored and excited to have the Greg Olsen on. So, Greg, welcome to Hidden Pearls Podcast. We are really, really honest. It's so much fun. So this is really cool because this weekend is National Tight Ends Day, and we all are involved in tight end use. So we're going to get a little plug on that. Let me do a quick bio on Greg, though. Just most people know, but maybe not. So first round pick with the Bears out of Miami.
Bears.
The tight end you. Oh, is it? Okay. Anyway, played 14 season. Bears for 4, Carolina 9, Seattle 1, 3-time Pro Bowler. You were the first tight end in history to have 3 straight 1,000-yard receiving yards from 2014 and 15 and 16. That's pretty cool. Somebody else has done that, but it's still neat.
Yeah, until Travis got it like 7
Right? All right. You were the Panthers' all-time leading tight end in receiving yards, receptions, and in 100-yard receiving games. So left your mark there. Joined Fox Sports after retiring after the 2020 NFL season. And coincidentally, with Tight End U showing up and National Tight End Day, you are in town for Fox, coming into Santa Clara to do the game, Niners v. Chiefs, doing the color for us. So that's pretty excited. We had a pre-recording promise that if George scores 2 tutties, Greg's taking his coat and shirt off in the booth and showing that bod that got him so much attention in Carolina. So that's pretty cool. So, all right.
I feel really good about that. That wager I feel really good about. Both for you and I.
All right. Well, that's really cool. So we're glad to have you, and it's great to have you on the show again. And so let's just talk a little bit because we had our friends at Rubicon plugging me and making sure we didn't forget anything. So you got your Tight End University hat on, and we are heading in. So this is 2023. It'll be year 3. I've got dates for June 20th to 22nd in Nashville. Charmin is our lead sponsor. And I'm just going to give us a plug for last year. It was unbelievable last year. The money raised over $800,000 donated for youth programs and charities out of tight end use. So we have unbelievable sponsors. So again, the Charmin Bear is back, and we are thrilled to have it because everybody loves a soft and cushy tight end. All right. Wow. What do you guys want to? I know, pretty good. Maybe somebody will pick me up.
It's really good. That's really
Greg,
good.
What do you guys want to say something about tight end U? What is it? Why do we do it? And why does it matter?
Oh, Greg, all you, man.
Yeah, it's funny. The story is kind of cool because it really just started from George and I. Just George had sent me a text shortly after I had retired, following the 2020 season, and we were just kind of texting back and forth. Obviously, we've all gotten to know each other over the last couple of years pretty well, and when he just kind of threw like a casual, hey, if you're ever in town, ever get down to Nashville, we'd love you to come down and work out with us. A handful of guys train with me at my house, kind of just something casual. And I was like, yeah, I would love that. And from that conversation, it was like, you think we can get 10 guys? And we got 10 guys. And then it was like, man, this might be bigger than we even think. We've got Kelsey involved. Next thing you know, we're like, can we get 20? And lo and behold, we had, 50 guys in year
Yep.
one, 55 or whatever it was. And it really just started organically. So George kind of sends me a random congrats on a getting old kind of message. And next thing you know, we're all down in Nashville having a good time in downtown on Broadway and doing some ball on the side. In year two, I don't think anyone imagined it would grow to what it did, 80 something guys. And yeah, it's something that we kind of mark our calendars for every summer. It's a pretty cool deal.
Pretty cool. Yeah, year one at beautiful Lipscomb with the Purple Horse. So that was nice. We thank them for their sponsorship. So George, anything you want to plug on Tight End U? So it was pretty cool. I thought Vanderbilt did a great job hosting us. Nice layout. Fields were really good. And they're going to be under construction, but I think it's just going to be more expansive and we'll have a little bit more freedom there as well. So they're very excited to have us. So we appreciate them. George, any plug on Tight End U you want to offer?
Really my only plug I have is that Charmin sent a bunch of toilet paper to the Niners facilities. And so now we have Charmin paper. And cause like Greg, it's usually not great toilet paper. It's like single, maybe double ply. And so now we have Charmin toilet paper. And like, I didn't tell anybody that I did it. And about 6 or 7 guys, I heard them talking today and they were like, do you guys see the toilet paper in the bathroom? Oh, it's incredible. And I was like, yes, let's go Charmin.
Yeah. So talk about an organic plug. That's about as organic as it gets.
Well, it's pretty cool. So they do a great job, and they have is it a red bear and a blue bear that walk around, and in the middle of the summer when it's July, those guys almost passed out.
Oh,
so that was pretty tough. Okay, so that's Tight End U. So look for more information on that. We got the dates. If you're a tight end in the NFL, mark your calendar, and you'll be getting some information on us on that. Well, let's bounce then, because this Sunday, as is every third NFL Sunday of the season, I think it's the third, isn't it, or whatever it is, but is National Tight End Day. So let's roll that in as we have premier tight ends coming into town. So we got Travis Kelce coming in. We know Noah Gray. Noah was at the last Tight End U with the Chiefs, and George will be there, of course, with our whole crew, with Ross Dwelly, Charlie Warner, and the crew showing up. And we got the primo tight end color guy in the entire sports arena. So Greg's calling the ball. So talk a little bit about, George, you talk a little bit about National Tight End Day and how that thing got started. I had my T-shirt set out and then we jumped to early. But I can go get it. But anyway, I got my George Kittle National Tight End T-shirt. But let's talk a little bit about National Tight End Day and again, why it matters and why we do this. I think it's obvious, but let's go ahead and talk about it.
Yeah, National Tight Ends Day. Super excited. It really started off 2018. It was like the second game of the season. And we were getting hype. It was our tight ends. It was me and Garrett Selleck, Ross Dwelly, Cole Wick. That was our group. And then we had we were hyping up the tight ends. We were just all super pumped. And we're like, hey man, I can't remember how it got started with Jimmy, but Jimmy started saying, yeah, it's a holiday, man. Tight ends, man, you're gonna score touchdowns today. And lo and behold, Garrett Selleck scored. And then that kind of went away. We weren't really anything sure about it. And then during OTAs of 2019, the NFL came in like, hey, National Tight Ends Day. What do you think about making it an actual day? And we're like, sure, sounds like a great idea. Sounds really fun. And then so it started in 2019, really. And it's just kind of grown, T-shirts, vibes. And, then I also have a conspiracy theory with Tight End U, with National Tight Ends Day. And Greg, you can help me out on this. What are the odds that the NFL schedule comes out and it's the Niners and the Chiefs playing on National Tight Ends Day, and also Greg Olsen and your TV, you guys are calling the game? Like that is that just coincidence, or is that a planned thing?
It has to be planned. If that is all a coincidence, then the NFL just had a rabbit's foot up its ass. Because I'll tell you what, I think the fact that you and Travis are playing against each other on America's Game of the Week, our big doubleheader weekend, 425 national game, that for sure is not a coincidence. Now, whether when they made the schedule, they knew that I would be calling this game, there was a lot of moving parts with the A crew and all that. I could see that possibly them just lucking out, but there's no question in my mind that somebody at the league office looked at the calendar and said, all right, we need to, Travis and George are going to play each other. Let's put it on this week. Why would we not? It makes too much sense. So I would like to think that they did it on purpose. And I think they nailed it, because I think the fact that, the Chiefs are coming into town to play you guys are getting healthy. They're coming off a tough loss last week. They want to bounce back, as are you. I just think it sets up for it was one of the games that we circled when our calendar came out for the schedule. Like, this was one of the games where we can't wait to call that game.
I mean, it's going to be exciting. I mean, like you said, Niners getting healthy. Chiefs are always, their offense is always explosive. Their defense is playing at an incredibly high level, like third on third. They're one of the best defenses in the league right now. So, hey, and then we just throw in a present for National Tight Ends Day. Thanks, Coach Shanahan. Thanks, John Lynch, for Christian McCaffrey. Super excited about that one.
How awesome is that?
Dude, great. I'm very excited. It could be a lot worse.
Yeah, it could be.
Dude, he's so good. I was saying to your dad before we jumped on, he is, you know him, but he is such a good dude. I heard the news last night at midnight our time, and I texted him and he's like, dude, could you believe this? And then it was just, he's fired up, man. When I talked to him this morning on the phone for a little bit, it was 7 a.m. and he's like, I'm heading to the airport. I got to get out there. And then I feel like I blinked and I saw him walk on your practice field.
Right.
I was like, did he time travel? I just talked to him. He was in Charlotte, but he's a stud, man. He's a stud player. He's better than everyone even says he is. When you see him live, you're like, whoa. And he's just an all-time great dude. So he's a great combination. You're going to absolutely love him.
Yeah. And Greg, you overlapped, was it 2 seasons with him? Were you on?
We played 3. So he got drafted in 17. So we played 17, 18, 19 together. Okay. And then I left. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, you have direct experience with him, but we only know firsthand when George was out at the Rose Bowl, we played Stanford, and I'm sitting in the end zone watching it. And so Stanford's offenses has their back to me, right? Which I love. So I can watch the O-line play and all that. So Christian, he lines up in the backfield, and they're 2-by-1 with a tight end attached, and they put him in motion out. So he's a slot. So they're 2-by-2 now. And Iowa, all they do is walk their will back route over him. There's one single high safety. They got no extra help for him. And the other dude's way wide, right? So the corner's out of the picture. I turn to my wife and I go, this is a touchdown. And the quarterback looks over. I don't know, whatever they said. It's like, doot, doot. He throws it to him. He jukes the guy, runs 80 yards for a touchdown. And that was basically the game. And that's how it was the whole damn game. Totally remember. Georgie, we can't hear you, man.
That was the first play of the game.
First play of the game.
Yeah. Very
first play of the game. And then when he went in motion out there and they only adjusted, they didn't roll the coverage to him. I'm like, it's over. And it was. He just, it was so easy. It was like pulling. It was awful. Anyway, that was the name of that. So it took a little while to recover from my, we weren't big Christian McCaffrey fans for a while, but he's a hard guy not to like. So we're super excited. Georgia said nothing but great things about him, as you have, and I've heard super good things about him. So that'll be really fun. So, all right, I want to get back to one thing on the National Tight End Day. Greg, you had a 14-year career in the league. You've seen a lot of guys. You overlapped with a lot of guys. You were around Tony Gonzalez. You and Zach Ertz were in the same heyday. You were kind of the classic guys, for a long time. And then, so what have you seen? And now you're in color, and so you watch tape. I know you guys put a lot of time into preparing, understanding who's playing in that. So what have you seen, in your years now? What are some things that you could tell us a little bit about how the tight end position has evolved and changed over the years? What are you seeing? What have you seen?
It's funny you said, I actually had this conversation the other day with somebody when we were preparing for a game. When I was young in the league, back in Chicago, 07, 08, if you had 600-700 yards, you were going to be a top 7 tight end, maybe top 5 on any given year. That was considered a lot. There was maybe 1 or 2 guys. Gates would be 1,000-yard guy. Witten had some 1,000 yards. Gonzalez, there was a couple guys that would do 1,000 yards, but then it was a big drop off. And then if you were in the 700s, even 600, you were a top 10 guy. And it just seems like these last couple years, if you're not 1,000-yard guy, 900 to 1,000-yard guy or above, you're not a guy, right? You're not in the Pro Bowl. You might make a Pro Bowl as an alternate or something. You're not all pro. And it's just, I think it's a testament to more guys want to play tight end, right? The bigger athletes of yesterday wanted to play defensive end. They wanted to rush the passer. Now I think guys are saying, all right, I'm a tall guy. I'm 6'3", I'm 6'5", whatever I am, I can run. Tight end is a cool position, right? Tight end is a position that there's a little love and a little glory in. So I just see such a bigger emphasis in the position. When I was young, there was a handful of guys that you knew. Now it seems every single team that is real, like a legitimate team, every single one of them has a top tier tight end. And I don't think that's by accident. I think teams are seeking it. And it's been cool, to come in on the heels of Gonzalez, Gates, Witten, like that kind of crew, and then be able to go through all the way the Gronk years and those, and and then at the end of my year was when George was young, Kelsey, I got 1 year of Kyle Pitts, Mark Andrews, like that next crop of guys that are kind of coming in behind George and Travis. It's kind of cool when you span this entire kind of time frame and just see how good these guys have gotten and just how many there are.
Yeah, it's pretty cool that way. And would you say that, is it fair that because of the evolution of the tight end, both physicality and the athleticism that is there, offensive schemes have seemed to have kind of adjusted as well, because it's a way to get mismatches with putting bigger bodies on. And it used to be kind of fickle, like they couldn't really run, but now you still got great big bodies. And like when I watch you and Travis and George and like Mark and those guys at tight end, and when we work on routes out there, the subtleties of their route running and the way in which they're able to move their body and create space is just amazing to watch it up close like that. And so I just, to me also, it's like the players have evolved. They've gotten even more athletic and their sophistication around route running has really improved. Thus, coaches are now putting them in positions and looking at them as a prime target more and more. So they really are super valuable to the team.
Yeah, and it's so funny you say that. When I was younger, they were the big bodies on the field, and they won by, they run jump balls, they ran seams, they ran option routes, 10-yard break in, break out, body guys up, and just kind of use their frame and their catch radius. Now, you watch George and you watch Travis and Andrews, like guys, tight ends now are actually running routes. Like they are getting themselves open. They're not just schemed open on a backside seam. They're not just schemed open on a little crosser off a hard play action, or just split them out wide on the goal line, throw them a jump ball and just jump over the top of the 5-10 corner. Like that was what it was early in my career. And then a handful of those really dynamic, unique guys, Gates and Gonzalez and Witten, they kind of moved it into this day and age where it's like, no, they're not just big guys who we can just use their size. They can run, they can create separation. They can actually run, to your point, sophisticated routes and win with their feet, that we don't just have to always rely on them being bigger than anyone. So I think that's a good point. And when you look at the top guys now, they're route runners.
Yeah.
And I don't think 15 years ago, 20 years ago, for sure, they weren't route runners.
Yeah. They had some routes, but they weren't.
Much smaller majority of the guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. There was a couple. There was the elite of the elite, Gates, Gonzalez, Witten, Shannon Sharp before them.
Yeah.
I mean, just, you can go down the line. They weren't really route runners. Now they are.
Yeah. And George, you're not the young little rookie that we, kind of like to think of you sometimes. You're in year 6. So
that I am.
Yeah. So you've seen some evolution too. Anything you kind of want to add to this conversation about it? And you obviously been at tight end, you're around a lot of tight ends and, you love the position and all that kind of stuff. So what do you watch a lot of film? What are you seeing? Anything else that we haven't talked about?
I mean, you guys covered it. I would just say, like, because I just remember doing like tight end scouting reports when I was in college. My coach would always make me watch NFL guys, and he made me watch old guys who had retired or guys that were still playing. And you can just like I said, like there's every team has like a route running tight end now. Like every team has somebody that can get open now. And like most teams are carrying 3 active tight ends. And while like one, you might have a guy that, he might be a bigger guy that's more into run blocking. You're going to have a guy out there that's a quick, fast, and can do a lot of damage in the pass game. He's out there running choice routes and just getting open, beating backers, reading coverages. And it's fun to see that because like Greg said, like every team that's done really well in the last 5 years, and then the years all the Patriots won it. Like every Super Bowl team or every playoff team has had an elite tight end who makes plays for them. And it's just like, I feel like you've just seen that more trending, especially since, because Greg, when you guys went, like you guys had I don't know, the Broncos they were high powered offense. and they had that defense. But like
They had
besides that,
Vernon. They had
oh yeah,
Vernon Davis.
Yep.
oh yeah,
Who,
see, Vernon Davis, decent. And before that, I mean, then you give Gronk with all the Patriot stuff, and then the Chiefs
Yep.
won with Kelsey, the Bucks won with Gronk and Cameron Brate, and then like I said, like now you just have all these tight ends that are they're not out there just headbutting a wall or just base blocking defensive ends. Now they're in the flow of the run game. They're getting open and all the keepers, all the bootlegs, and then now you're getting these isolation routes on third downs where guys have the opportunity to show people what they're made of.
Yeah. Well, you get a lot more time spread out. I mean, they're in the slot position, or you'll see Kelsey in a 3-by-1 all the time, way on the weak side, and they got to roll to the other side to the 3-by-1, and then it's the corner or somebody walked out on him trying to cover him one-on-one, and that's pretty tough. So anyway, well, it's super fun to watch that all grow and evolve and all that kind of stuff. So, all right, let's do this. Greg, we love to talk about transitions, and so our partnering group is Merging Vets and Players, which is about bringing retired veterans with retired professional athletes. And their motto is making sure everybody has a team once the uniform comes off. And so transitions are kind of a thing. And we spend a lot of time talking about that with veterans, about leaving the military, coming back from deployments and that kind of stuff. So, but the research and the things that they found is that leaving the NFL, for example, after a long career. So when you retired, whatever it was, after 14 years, you've been playing football in high school, plus college, plus those 14 years. So the majority of your life, you've been strapped up. And then to suddenly set your helmet aside and all that. And you transitioned into broadcasting. So I guess what I'd like, just maybe share with us, like, and I've been around you enough. You're a pretty sharp dude and you're very thoughtful. And I know you pay attention to things. And so I know you were planning your exit, and we talk about there being several stages, right? Trying to get in, trying to stay in, preparing to leave, and then leaving, right? You know what I mean? And so you really have to pay attention in those different stages. So talk to us a little bit about your preparation for leaving, and then how this transition into broadcasting has been for you. How was it to hang up the old cleats?
Yeah, I think like everybody, it was mixed emotions, right? I knew at the end that the thing that I had a lot of good closure of was I knew at the end, my last year or so, like I just couldn't do it anymore. I just physically, no matter how hard I trained, no matter how much treatment and rehab and whatever, I just couldn't play the way I wanted to play. Like I probably could have stayed in and played another year or two as a backup, as a 20 play a game guy, reserve guy, and just come in and just help a team. But that was never my style. Like if I was going to play, I needed to like play. That's just all I ever knew. I didn't know rotating. I didn't know coming in and out. I just wanted to play. And I just knew in my heart, no matter how hard I tried and worked, I just couldn't run the way I wanted to, the way I needed to. My body just wasn't holding up like it was when I was younger. So I had a lot of closure in that regard. I mean, the ending that last year in Seattle wasn't ideal, but how often is it? So I think though, as far as the transition into this color commentating, the broadcasting stuff was never really something that I went out and tried to find. It kind of just organically happened. I had some really cool opportunities when I was playing to do some TV stuff. And then Fox, I went out in LA and did like a behind the scenes audition in the studio. Like no one ever saw it outside of the Fox executives. And from there, I got a couple cool opportunities. I called the game in 17. I called the game in 19 as a current player on my bye week. And then the conversations with them started. Hey, when you're done, we'd love to have you join Fox. We'd love to have you on our, slate of games. And so going into that 2020 season in Seattle, I knew that was most likely going to be my last year. We actually signed a deal prior to my retirement that was contingent when I came out of retirement that I would be put on the number 2 crew. And so it really just happened organically. But I do think, to your point about having that transition plan, even though it was something I never in the beginning ever saw myself doing. Like I was a football player, right? I was all about ball. I was going to have the longest career I could. But then towards the end, when this opportunity came, it was nice. When I laid my head at night, I didn't have a lot of what am I going to do? How am I going to stay connected with the game that I've done since I was 5 years old, 6 years old. And so it was nice. It was nice to have something to pour my heart into. It was nice to have something occupy my mind, occupy my time, learning something new. I think later in life is always a fun challenge, and I'm still learning. I still don't know a lot about what I'm doing. I'm kind of making it up as I go, but it's been a really cool transition. I get to still stay connected with the guys. I still study the game. I watch tape. I talk to coaches. I'm down on the field. It's the next best thing than actually playing. And then after pregame, I get to go up in the booth and be safe, and these guys got to run around and kill each other. So it works out great.
That's really cool. So that's kind of fun how it just kind of opened up kind of organically like that. I was just going to tell you a quick, I don't know, I told this to George. I don't know if you remember George's combine year. They had you on the field, you were still playing. And I was, of course, watching the replays and shit, and so, he did the stupid little run blocking thing with a pad or something, right? Anyway, you kind of critiqued his footwork, right? And like, I'm an O-line coach, and like, he did it exactly like we train him at Iowa, like that thing. And I was like, who the hell's this Greg Olsen? What the hell does he know about run blocking? Like, what the hell? And I said that to George, and I can't even remember what it was now, but we're a little sensitive about our kids. But anyway, that brings us back to, though, I believe you were raised in a true football family, right? Your dad was a coach, and like, you knew Friday Night Lights, you were a ball boy. I mean, you grew up on the field, hanging out with your dad, hanging out with his teams and all that kind of stuff. And so deeply, deeply ingrained the culture of football and this notion that football's family. I mean, I've listened to a couple of your podcasts where you told that stories, and that's a pretty cool upbringing, with that family kind of connection. That certainly must have shaped you quite powerfully.
It did. We might have to go back and check the tape. I don't remember critical. I don't even remember what running back drills, what lineman blocking drills they even did at the combine. To be honest, I can't even remember. But
I'm sure it was more about me than you.
If I did, I apologize.
No, it's more on me.
No, I'm kidding. But to answer your question, yeah, football is really all we ever knew, right? I had two brothers. They both went on and played high Division I football in college. My dad was a high school football coach for his whole life. He took the job at the high school that we all went to the year I was born, and he left when my youngest brother graduated. So from 1985 to 2012 or 13, when my youngest brother finished, he was the head varsity coach. So when we were kids, our summer vacation was riding on a bus with his team to some college football camp for a week. And when he would go try to make extra money coaching, at Penn State or Rutgers or any of the local college summer camps, we'd sleep on his floor in the dorms. Like, it's all we knew, was being around his team, going to his practices, and then of course playing our little Pop Warner or whatever growing up. And as kids, all we ever wanted to do was play for my dad's team. Like, we didn't grow up big NFL fans. We lived down the street from the Giants stadium. I don't even remember ever going. We watched college football, and we went Friday night, we went with my dad. And then on Saturdays, we would go scout other high school games. Like, that's what we did as kids in the fall growing up. And all I ever wanted to do was play high school ball for my dad and play for our hometown team. And that was, again, I was the ball boy, the water boy. Then I was a freshman wearing his uniform, but I didn't get in on varsity. Then as a sophomore, you play one way. And then obviously as a junior and senior, you become one of the more established players. And I look back on that, and it shaped everything that I've ever done. That's where I learned to grind. That's where I learned adversity. That's where I learned when my dad would, be hard as shit on us and kick us in the ass. And if we didn't hustle, he'd knock our helmets off. I mean, he was serious now. Like, he was not for the faint of heart. And I look back on that, and it wasn't for everybody, but when I left high school, there was no one ever who could challenge me harder than I had already been challenged. And that was such an advantage over some of the other kids that I was competing with at Miami, because for the most part, they were all coddled. They were the stars. They were always told how good they were. I was never told that. Like, our dad, obviously he loved us and taught us, he supported us. He's the reason we were as good as we were, but like, he was never satisfied. And we never, as a byproduct, were ever satisfied. And I was able to carry that early experience as a young kid with me, the rest of my life.
Yeah. Well, the tape doesn't lie, right? And so if you live with somebody that watches tape, I mean, you can play a great game, but there's still stuff to work on, between hand placement, aiming points, and
you're going to love this.
You're going
to love this. So before I jumped on here, so me and my dad coach my 11-year-old son's Pop Warner team. And tomorrow we have the city semifinal game. So I'm sitting here and I'm charting their defensive plays, making sure I have our offensive formations, all of our tips and reminders for both sides of the ball, just making sure, like, tomorrow morning we got our shit right. My dad's calling me. He's the offensive coordinator. Luke Kuechly's the defensive coordinator. We are stacked. We are stacked. And
that's fun.
But like, my point is, like, this is all we know, right?
Yeah.
Like, this is all we know is, like, I tell my kids all the time, like, you don't have to play football. You don't have to play sports. I don't care what you do, but whatever you do, we're going to do it.
Right.
we're going to do it full throttle. And you might not be the best kid. Whatever that is, we're doing it full speed. Like, because if not, we're wasting our time.
All right. Do your best. Put the time in, learn how to grind. And that's really true. Like, I didn't grow up, my folks, they didn't even know what athletics was. I was the first one in my family. But like football and wrestling and swimming, those are 3 things I did all the way through. And they taught you everything about enduring pain, getting up early in the morning at 6 o'clock workouts and going to lift, going to swim, all the crazy wrestling bullshit, all that stuff. And so just teaches you, if you want stuff, you got to go get it. Nobody's going to hand you anything. Nobody cares. I had great coaches who loved you, but at the same time were really hard on you and really stressed you, to try to make you better. So it's all good. George, how was your growing up career? How were your coaches?
Oh, dude, thanks for setting me up. No, I was really lucky too, Greg. While Bruce wasn't like the high school football coach, he coached every single sport that me and my sister played up until high school. So I mean, he was my my t-ball team, my traveling soccer team, traveling basketball team, and like he would read he'd have he'd do all the notes, he would be prepared for it. I mean, his basketball coaching tip was be more violent, and his soccer coaching tip was be more aggressive and slide tackle them at the knees. Towards physicality, which works, which was great, and especially when you have a bunch of kids there. But then he was my first tackle football coach, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. But with Bruce, it was always, we're gonna work hard, we're gonna try our best, and we're gonna have a fun time doing it. And I've kind of just kept that my entire life, and it's really, really worked well for me, because I always feel like, at the end of the day, football is a kid's sport, right? And you've been playing it since you're 5 years old. And as long as you're having fun, it's a lot easier to get through all the other stuff that comes with it, the adversity, injuries, bouncing back from a bad game, something like that. But like, as long as you still have the love and the joy for it, and you enjoy going to work every day, and you have that mindset of like, I'm a good football player, but I still have to go work my ass off every single day to get better. And so if you have that mindset, it makes the game so much more fun. And I will say this too: there's nothing like football, because it's the most humbling sport ever. That thing, you could be riding the mountaintop streak, like you're doing the best in the world, and one play can just change everything, your whole mindset and everything. And so it's just learning how to bounce back from that, and learning how to be resilient, learning whatever mental tips you have to do to not let things snowball. It's just every life lesson possible is in that. And also, I mean, there's not a better team sport in the world. There's nothing like it. You have to have 11 guys on each side of the ball that want to win, that want to be there, and want to work together. And if you don't have that, it's toxic, and you're going to lose a lot of games.
There's nothing in my life has ever taken me as high, and nothing in my life has ever taken me as low. Because when it's ugly, and it's not much fun, but it's still football, so we still love it. So, okay, well, we'll hold all that. I just want to, Greg, because we brought up mindset a little bit, and I had this down in your transition to broadcasting, because as a player, I mean, you have your game prep. I'm guessing you probably did some visualization kind of things, as you're thinking about, you watch tape, you see yourself doing great things and all that. How is mindset and that kind of preparation transferred? I know you talked about watching tape and talking to coaches and doing all that, but like before you walk into the booth, like walking on camera, how is that translated from, walking onto the field, being a player, to being in front of a camera and millions of people watching you call a game?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of similarities, and I think to what, to the point George is making, what's so cool about, not only football, just sports in general, is there's no do-over, right? Like whatever happens on that play, you get beat backside, you drop a ball, you score a touchdown, whatever it is, it's over.
Yeah.
And the same thing on air, right? Like we don't have a delay. We don't have, oh, no, we're going to edit that and redo it. Like we don't get to rehearse the entire 3-hour broadcast because we don't know what's going to happen, right? So there is a notion of like real-time reality where it's like, hey, what you do, what you say, how you respond, it's out in the universe, right? And to some people, that's a very scary idea. We don't get to do it, do it right and think, okay, yes, air that I got that point across really well. So, and to your point about mindset, like throughout the course of the week, really starting on Friday and into Saturday, I'll spend a lot of time, whether I'm watching the film and just kind of broadcasting the game in my head, right? And I'm saying, what would I say here? What would be a really unique point here? And just like in my mind, I practice, whether it's the open, whether it's coming at a commercial break, or whether it's how I would describe a route George ran where he separates cause. And like, what would I say and say it in my head, like, what would I say that maybe is a little different than what the traditional broadcaster would just say? Wow, great job by George Kittle. He's so strong. What a great route and a great catch for the touchdown. Yeah, no shit. Like, but in my mind, can I say, like, pay attention here at the line, like, watch the release when George sets up the safety, but whatever it is, like, make a cool point. Like, I practiced that during the week, and even though it doesn't ever match up perfectly, I'm training myself in my own mind to just say, hey, think bigger, think more interesting, think clear, like, just so that way when the game comes, that's the habit in which I've kind of trained my brain as I'm watching plays, as I'm watching Thursday night football, Monday night football. I'm watching the game nowadays, no longer watching the tight end. I'm watching, listening to the other broadcasters, but then I'm also in my mind, like, what did I see and what would I have said? Is it what Romo said? Is it what Chris Collinsworth said? Or would I have said something different? Like, so to your point, I think it's a good one. Like, I'm constantly in my mind trying to find creative and fun ways to describe things that we've all seen a million times, but it's our job to make that interesting to the viewer.
Yeah. Well, I really appreciate that, especially the rehearsing part, just so you get comfortable seeing, analyzing, and then kind of resharing it. And the other thing I'm taking from what you said, though, is that you kind of have this, you've already got a vision of who you want to be as a broadcaster. You know what I mean? So you don't want it, because clearly there are some Captain Obviouses out there that say this, you know, like, no kidding, I'm watching it. You know, he dropped it, right? It was a shitty, whatever. But to offer something that's just a little bit more unique, kind of behind the scenes a little bit, that having somebody that really knows football can say, well, yeah, but look at this, the way the backer played him, or this adjustment, and watch the footwork. And it does make it a lot more interesting and some depth. So, and I told you that beforehand, and not just because you're on the show, but thought you were doing a great job with that, because there are some insights that have a little bit more depth to it. And there's some people that do that, but there's others that don't. So that's pretty cool. So George, I don't want to leave you out, buddy. What are you thinking?
No, I mean, Greg, that was really interesting just to hear you talk about that, because like with the visualization of, you know, like just sitting at home watching another game and like watching the plays and like, hey, like how would I have called that differently? That's just a very interesting thought. And, you know, I don't really think about being a broadcaster at this point, but it's just cool to hear you talk about it like that, because I feel I just kind of flicked a light bulb in my head and I was like, that makes a lot of sense. So I appreciate you sharing that. That was awesome. And I do try to catch your games. I will say that I'm a little biased.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
I'm a little
You're
biased.
my guy.
Yeah, I mean,
but there's like 5 guys in the league whose box score I check after every game, and it's like you, Travis, McCaffrey. Like, I have like my list of guys. I'm like, come on, tell me they threw him to rock. I don't care, you know, no offense, but like whether you win, I want you to win, but I want you to catch like 120, to be honest with you. Don't we all? No, well, I appreciate that.
All right. Well, very cool. Well, we look forward to your broadcasting career growing and all that. Is there an event that's out there that you kind of have in the back of your head that you'd really like to be on as far as color? And maybe it's football or maybe it's something else. Is there
if you could be the color commentator for any sporting event, what would you do?
So the easy answer is I'm going to get to call the Super Bowl this year.
Right. So for sure.
That's going to be sick, right? So that's the easy one. That's the obvious answer. You know, that's a good question. Like, I've really gotten into baseball. Like, my kids play a lot of baseball. I don't pretend to be a master at baseball. I don't know the ins and the outs and the details. So I don't know if I'd be educated enough, but like, I think to call baseball or to go call a tennis, you know, go call Wimbledon or go like to an iconic destination sporting event. But obviously I would have to like I'd have to take someone else's brain and put it in my head in order to talk about it. But like, I think to be there at Augusta or be there at Wimbledon or be there at one of those like really iconic, you know, locations to call an iconic annual event would be super cool. I don't have the skill set to do it. I think those guys that are able to call multiple sports are, you know, my partner right now is hosting the pregame show, Burkhart. He's going to be with me Sunday calling your game. For this whole week, he's been calling the championship series between the Phillies and the Padres, and he's hosting the studio show, and he knows all what he does during the course of the week, I just am blown away by. And then he'll come on Sunday and he'll know every single player on your team, every single part about him. It's amazing how talented these guys are. So I don't have that brain power, but I do think it would be cool to call one of those like major iconic events. Yeah.
George, you know who we have to get him with? You better call your folks over at WWE for WrestleMania. Don't you think Greg and The Miz would get along great? and we get him backstage. With
McAfee
some of
kills that.
I know he does.
McAfee kills that.
He's killing it right now, and now he's transitioned over to game day with college football. So it's so much fun to watch. He's having so much fun. He can't even believe himself.
He's great.
But anyway,
he's killing it.
Yeah, because you're a big old dude. So yeah, you'd be good up there. We get you in the ring with some guys and are you ready to rumble? And
I'd blow my back out if I got in the ring with those guys. I haven't done a lot of training lately.
Did you see the McAfee backflip off the ring though?
He's incredible.
It was crazy. So
the highlight of my physical activity every week is that I play like at least once, if not twice, I play tennis. Okay. So that's like the extent of my physical activity.
That's something.
Which isn't saying very much.
I mean, you're moving, you're cutting a little bit. It's like running routes.
Trying.
Okay.
Footwork's getting good.
All right. Well, good. Well, we'll look forward to hearing more about your tennis career as well as you come forward. All right. You're doing the Niners and the Chiefs. I don't know. We don't have to talk a whole bunch about it. There's a lot going on with it. I know, George, you're way deep into it. We're a day away from the game. But, Greg, what are you seeing? And anything you want to kind of toss out just for people to kind of be paying attention to?
I think again, like I said before, it's a game that I've been fired up to call from the beginning, both personally, just because of Travis and George, but then also just because it's a great matchup. It's the national game, and they're two teams that I think right now, if you had to pick a team out of the NFC and pick a couple teams out of the AFC, the Chiefs and the 49ers would be in those respective groups, right? I think the NFC picture right now, you guys are all kind of out there in the NFC West, and you're all kind of jumbled in, right around 500 or so. But, really the only teams, when you look across the board, you have Dallas, you have Philadelphia, and then everyone else is kind of in that same group. And what's exciting about you guys, as I've watched you all week, is the only time I've seen you guys struggle. Opening day, that was a weird game. You were playing like on the surface of the moon, like rain. It was bizarre. And then last week, your entire team was out. But like in between that, like you guys have played some really good ball. Your defense is nasty. I think your offense is really starting to come along. I think Ayuk is getting so much better. I think Jimmy's starting to play well. Like, I think you guys, now you throw Christian into the mix with you. Like, I think you get Trent Williams back. Like, all of a sudden you start adding all these pieces and you're like, the 49ers are pretty damn good, right? So I think big matchups for you guys are going to be, and again, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. Like going into the game, my big matchup in my mind is your defense is going to have to win in the red zone. Every time Mahomes gets down there, he's going to get down there. They can't always score a touchdown. The notion that you're going to just stop them 3 and out is probably unrealistic. If you do, that's great. But if I'm Shanahan and I'm D'Amico, I'm saying, hey, we might give up yards. We can't give up explosives. We got to keep the ball in front of us. And when they get in the red zone, we've got to hold them to as many field goals as possible. And then for you guys, your formula. Your formula has been the same since you've been there, right? You got to be really good on first and second down, running the ball so that you guys can get in as many non-pass downs as humanly possible, because that's where your big plays come from. The under center shot, the shots, the play action, you up the seam, you on the posts, Ayuk, Debo out of the backfield. Like, it all stems from your guys' ability to run the ball and be physical and stay out of must dropbacks. So like, to me, those are the two elements of the game that on paper are easier said than done, but I think you're both talented. I think their defense has some holes in it. I think you guys can get some yards, especially passing the ball. And obviously, you know how good their offense is for years. So I think it's going to be a great game. I'm glad you guys are healthier. I was a little concerned earlier in the week that like if all these starters were out like they were last week, that it was going to be a tough day, but it seems like you're getting some dudes back, and I'm fired up for it.
Cool. All right.
Straight, Greg. I love it.
All right, George, if you're a broadcaster, not a player, what's your analysis? Anything else?
I kind of touched on it earlier. Just being on the opposite side of the ball and being in the meetings that I'm in. I know that the Chiefs have a very, very good defense. I think they're number 2 or 3 in the league in explosive run plays given up. They've been playing the run really, really well this year, and like that's the Niners' bread and butter. And the formula to beat the Niners is don't let them run the football. That's been a thing that has stifled us. And while we're going to try to we're going to force it, and we're going to run the damn football. And we're going to enjoy it. You're going to enjoy it. You better enjoy it. But that matchup, if the Chiefs run defense versus our defense versus our run offense, and I'm excited to see that. And then vice versa. I mean, Travis Kelce and Mahomes are clicking. I mean, week in and week out, they're going for 80 to 100 yards and sometimes 4 touchdowns. So I mean, like they're clicking right now, and their other guys are starting to step up a little bit. Now I will say, like, I don't know if anyone's like every week, no one's played the Niners D line. That's a D line that it's one of a kind. Nick Bosa is one of a kind. Our interiors, it's playing at a high level. And so it's just like you have all these matchups, and then it also helps that you have two fantastic linebackers right behind that with Dre Greenlaw and Fred Warner. So it's just this defense is nasty. They're violent. They're physical, and they hit so hard every single day. Trust me, I know they practice against us, and I still get punched. But so it's going to be a fun matchup, and like you said, it is. It's in the red zone. I've seen games where, the Chiefs, it's clockwork. It's just 10-yard play, 15-yard play, 4-yard play, 20-yard play, touchdown. And the next thing you know, after 10 plays, they have 14 to 17 points. It's like, well, where'd the game go? And so it's going to be on, I think it's going to be on the Niners to control the clock, really. We got to hold on to the ball and no turnovers and have some fun.
Yeah. I don't know if it's true, but going into the game last week, I think the Chiefs, they were 100% once they entered the red zone, either with a touchdown or field goal, but they had not scored at least something. So they do.
The Bills got an interception last week. It was like one of the first ones.
Say it again.
Yeah, they've scored more red zone touchdowns than any team in the league.
Yeah. So pretty good. So, well, we know a lot of good people, obviously a really good quarterback, and our boy Travis can be trying to light it up. So we'll see how our guys can cover it. So, all right. Well then, Greg, we want to, we followed because last year you were right in the midst of it. Your son, TJ, he's had a congenital heart disease for a lot of his life. And I believe he had 3 open heart surgeries until this last one where he had a full heart transplant. And I know you were going through that, and you guys started anew with the Children's Hospital out in North Carolina, Hardest Yard program. And I know you're doing some pieces around that work. And so I just wanted to give you a chance. How's TJ doing? How's that? How's the new, I know you guys opened up, I think, a new wing at the hospital as well. There's some pieces with that. Just give us a little update on all those things that you're doing with that.
Yeah, it was actually right around TEU last year.
Right.
I wasn't originally. I had told Travis and George, because he got put on the transplant list in May, and I think it was June when we had the event, right?
Yep.
End of June, second, third week of June. So I didn't think that I was going to be able to make it. Somehow we were fortunate enough that he was able to get on the list and get a transplant and get home, and he was in a good place that I was able to get down there for a couple of days and do it. So yeah, last summer was wild. To have your 8-year-old son go through, get a heart transplant was pretty eye-opening, and was a pretty wild ride, but he's doing incredible. Like, he's better now than he's ever been. We didn't realize just how poor his function was and how poor he felt until after he got a fully functioning heart. Until for the first 8 years of his life, he didn't know what a fully functioning heart even felt like. He never had one, and we didn't know what he felt like. So it was really an eye-opening experience for us. We're super grateful and thankful. And as you said, from that experience, from the day he was born, on second day, 2 days old, he had his first open heart surgery. We knew that this space was kind of ours to dive into and use our platform and our resources and the opportunities that we've had to improve the lives and the experience of families coming in behind us, and specifically here in the Carolinas. So the Hardest Yard program started just out of our experience. It originally started as an in-home nurse program. We would bring nurses and therapists and doctors and any specialists into your home following the discharge from the hospital with your child following surgery, and try to prevent them from having to be readmitted into the hospital. And then from there, we've just continued to grow. You mentioned back in 2020, we opened a 25,000 square foot state-of-the-art comprehensive congenital heart center. All the multidisciplines of the pediatric cardiac program here in Charlotte are in this one center. It's the only one of its kind here in the Southeast region of the country. So we just expanded to Charleston. We're going to partner with MUSC Children's Hospital. So that's our second location that we're going to bring our program to. So it's something we spend a lot of time on. It's something that we have a lot of passion for, of course. And we just truly enjoy engaging and meeting with these families who share very similar stories to us. And our goal is that hopefully, as a result of the Hardest Yard and the work that we do, their experience, their child's outlook can be slightly better and just slightly improved as a result. So I appreciate you letting us talk about it. And it's something that, obviously means a great deal to me and my family.
Yeah. Well, I know we went through that with you last year, kind of hit or miss whether you're going to make it. And obviously we were all concerned and praying for TJ and that. And so we're grateful that it worked out and that you could come. And so we're going to maintain that. And so we will, our donation this week, for our charity is going to go to wherever it is. So do we send it to the hardest? You can send us that. We'll put all the links in the show notes.
Yeah.
So for people and how they can find you guys and all that kind of stuff. And if they want to support, we want to encourage that. So we'll kick our donation that way and hope all things continue to grow. And, the one thing that really struck me is, until you see the difference from living with what he was dealing with and then post operation, and then you kind of see the, I don't know, I don't want to put words in, but kind of who he really is as a person, feeling good. It's just such a transformative thing. And it reminds me about, you just don't know what people are going through, and you can't, even though you're there with him and you see kind of maybe the limitations, you really can't appreciate fully what it is to be him, to get up every day, to feel what he's feeling, and to kind of have all that going against you like that. And so that's pretty amazing. So anyway, very happy for you and the family and glad that's going good. So pretty cool stuff. All right. Anything else you want to add on that? Or is that I don't want to cut you off? Okay. Very cool.
No, it's great.
All right. So we just want to check in on the Greg Olsen front though. So now we got broadcasting. You've made this transition. You're doing the Super Bowl. You're going to be on WWE and WrestleMania up here pretty soon. Yep. All right. We'll have all that shit going. So, but you've got some other things started. So we know you're coaching, but there is something floating out there called Audiorama. So we know that you are in kind of the podcast platforming area. Can you explain to us? I think that's your newest thing. What is that all about, and what's going on with that, and why should we care?
Yeah, well, hopefully, not many people care right now, but hopefully people do care. I'm the worst retired guy ever. My weeks now are like busier than when I played, and it's wild. But so what started as me just kicking around this idea, me and Raskin, George and I's fellow agent, a guy that does a lot for both of us, we were kicking around a couple of years ago, and re-entering the podcast space. I had some different ideas, and the world that I live pretty much every single day is the world of youth sports, right? I grew up in it. I now coach it. I'm a dad. I grew up the son of a coach. It's kind of been my world. And oftentimes I don't have the answers, right? I think we're doing it wrong. I think, is it too much? Are we not doing enough, right? And my wife and I have these conversations a lot. So I had this idea about a youth sports-based podcast where we have conversations with fellow athletes, parents, coaches, leagues, equipment, doctors. Also, we've had conversations with really, really cool people all around this idea of youth sports in America. And so as I was kicking that idea around, I was having dinner with two buddies of mine, Ryan Khalil, who's a former teammate of mine, and Vince Vaughn, who is a buddy of mine from Chicago. And we were having dinner and I pitched them, and they're like, "Guy, don't sell this to, one of the big players." He's like, "Let's just build our own audio, our own audio video platform. We'll own the show and we'll support it and get that up and running. And then we'll build other content pieces around it, both related and unrelated. And we'll make our own little, platform of content, and we'll be our own production angle and not have to sell our shows for a quick buck, but maybe grow this into a larger company and a larger, kind of a network of shows and see what that looks like." So Ryan and I and Vince, we partnered up with a really successful venture capital group out of California that specializes in media tech startups. And we started back in March with my podcast. We're about to have like 4 shows up and running. Ryan's doing a show with Audible, which is Amazon, around their Thursday night package. We just have some really cool concepts. Vince is working on a show that we think is going to be a huge hit. So we have some really cool projects. And the idea was, if we're going to create, interesting content, let's own it ourselves. Let's not send it out to somebody else to try to make a quick buck. Let's own it, grow it, cultivate it, and maybe let's see what that looks like, in 5 years. So that's what Audiorama is. It's the network that You Think, which is my show, sits on. And it's all about just discovering and curating really cool content, putting it together, and entertaining people with cool storytelling.
All right. Well, we like stories. That's our little motto, is connecting with people through storytelling to help and serve the world. So that's what we're working on anyway. So that sounds really cool. Well, we'll look for more on that. I guess we'll close out then, because we've been going a little bit, and we want to get George home from the facility because he's still stuck there because we couldn't get him home in time. He was rehabbing. So last thing. Well, Greg, in this great big world, you've had a very blessed life. You got a great family and had a great career. So what are some things right now, just even one or two in the top of your radar, that make you smile or give you hope? and here's where I'm content. So our podcast is called Hidden Pearls, and we're always looking for charities and people, and because we believe that people have good in within them, and love and kindness will reign supreme, at least at some point in this world. But anyway, so what's one thing that's given you hope or brought a big smile to your face over the last week?
I think the biggest thing that brings me hope, outside of just my family, my wife and my kids and that stuff, that's obvious. We spend a lot of time with the kids here in Charlotte, right? I have kids that are school age. We coach their teams. We're coaching Pop Warner. We're helping out in baseball, going to my daughter's soccer. We spend a lot of time with kids in the community, mostly through athletics. And I just constantly get reminded, even though sometimes it's stressful and sometimes you ask yourself, is it worth doing all this for mostly the adult drama? When it comes down to it, the kids are awesome, right? Like the kids are a blast. They're wide-eyed. They want to learn. They want to be challenged, and they want to be shown what they're capable of. And I always say this. I say this on my podcast a lot. The only people who limit kids are the adults. If the adults stop saying what kids are capable of, no, that's too hard. No, they can't learn that. No, that's too challenging. Let's see what these kids are capable of. And every day when we do that, these kids never let us down. These kids always rise to the occasion, and kids that you thought couldn't do it 3 weeks ago, all of a sudden their eyes have opened up and they're like, oh my God, I've never had someone hold me accountable to do it. People have just always told me, okay, you didn't get it the first time. Let's move on to somebody else. Like, no, we're going to force you to do it. And then all of a sudden that light switch goes on and they're like, no one's ever shown me the way before. And the second you do that, you have them forever. So I think that's the thing that brings us the most joy, is just being able to connect with these kids, challenge them, push them, and then see them come out the other side and be like, oh my God, I never knew I was capable of what I'm doing. And this is just in sports, but I think it carries over to everything. Yeah. And I don't know, I get a lot of joy and a lot of pride out of spending a lot of time with these kids.
Yeah, super fun. I know that was one of the most fun periods of my life when George and Emma were doing all that. We got to be with all the community and the families and the neighborhoods. And it's really true. If you don't limit them, listen to their dreams, and then support them along the way, it's unbelievable the things that they can run off and take care of. So, and George, you had a pretty hopeful moment today. Do you want to share just a quick one on that, and then we'll close out?
So Greg, we had in college when I was with CJ Beathard at the University of Iowa, Iowa Children's Hospital, big in Iowa. You see the wave every Saturday when the Hawks are playing at home. So the football team would always do a lot of stuff with the Iowa Children's Hospital, and I was fortunate enough. I want to say it was either my freshman or my sophomore year of college.
Sarah knew exactly. Red shirt freshman.
So my sophomore year of college, I go to Iowa Children's Hospital and I meet Sarah. And at the time, we hung out a little bit, and Sarah was, I can't remember how old she was at the time, probably 8 years old. I was about to say 6 to 8. She was in there, and it was stage 4 terminal cancer. And I think at that point, she was it was remissing. And so that was all good. And then it was 3 or 4 years later, I talked to her on a Zoom call. I think it was during COVID. So no, it would have been probably 7 years later, I saw her on a Zoom call, and she was back in the hospital dealing with another stage 4 terminal cancer. She beat that one. And then I talked to her again this past off season as she was coming off of, I don't think it was the stage 4 terminal cancer, but then literally right after we got off the phone call, a week later, she had to deal with it again. And so she's beaten stage 4 terminal cancer 3 times. And she's just an absolute savage.
And then this third one, she was diagnosed 15 months ago. It's DRXTC or something. I can't, but anyway, it's kind of a chromosome or something. But anyway, she also at the same time, a month after that, was diagnosed with thyroid cancer. So she had surgery on that, and then the other stuff. But anyway, she was at the stadium today with the whole family, did a big tour. She's going to the game. Anyway, so she's now totally in remission, and they've kind of given her clearance, but she's been diagnosed 3 times and labeled terminal. And here she is, just turned 18, freshman in college, and she's cruising. So anyway, we were thrilled to have her out, go to the game. And so it's kind of the Make-A-Wish kind of stuff. So anyway, so it was very hopeful, and the family just feeling overwhelmed and utterly blessed, and just kind of really talk about people living in the moment. just because they've been up and down so many times with it and all that. So anyway, so those are our thoughts about that. So in our heart, this is Cancer Awareness Month. And I've been talking about it on our podcast and talking about it on the Mindful Mondays. So folks, if you're listening, just you're in that battle, you're not alone. And so reach out. There's a lot of resources and services available. And if you have an option and or resources to help others, we certainly encourage you to do so. So Greg, our thanks to you. Thanks so much for spending time. I know it's a Friday night and you got a lot of film to watch probably yet and X's and O's to draw, but we wish you the very best. You're always great on the show. We really appreciate it. We'll be following that. And George, drive safe. We can't wait to see you. We're all sitting around waiting for dinner. All right.
Can't wait.
All right. Okay.
Greg.
Take care. Greg, we'll see you.
Appreciate it, guys.
Hope we see you on the field. Okay. Take care.
I'll see you on Sunday. I'll see you on
yeah.
Sunday. See you guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Wait, hold on.
Ready, Greg? 1, 2, 3, action! Beautiful.
All right, Bruce Kittle here with the Hidden Pearls podcast. We're with the Waul family, and greetings, Kevin, Rachel, and our special honored guest, Sarah. And we have the siblings as well, but they failed the screen test, so they're not here right now. So we'll come back to them later. So anyway, we are here at Levi Stadium. This is up in the suite with George and Juice, where we hang out and all that, so we're really privileged to do that. We've just had a great afternoon. We walked around, we saw the 49er museum. We did some of that, and we also got to walk the stadium a little bit, went up to the rooftop and all those things. But what we really want to do is explain why it is that you're here. So I'm going to start with Sarah, if that's okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so this story links us back. So you and George have known each other for quite a while.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about your entry into this and how you first met George and why you met George. So, and I'm just a little quick snippet. They are here out of Iowa, and our connection is through the U Children's Hospital. And then with that, I will let Sarah and the family kind of go from there. So Sarah, give us a little bit, how did you get in that situation and how did you first hook up with George?
So there was a Children's Miracle Network event or whatever, and so we decided to be a part of it. And this was when George was a redshirt freshman year for Iowa. And so all the redshirt freshmen came out to a gymnasium somewhere, I don't quite remember where.
The North Gym. The North Gym
Okay.
in the field house. Yep.
So we met him there, and we just kind of got to know him. He played basketball with my brother for a little bit. Apparently I played tic-tac-toe on his hand with permanent marker. So.
Okay. All right. And tell us a little bit, why were you in this Make-A-Wish kind of deal? What was going on with you at the time? What happened?
Well, I was considered cancer-free when I was diagnosed when I was 3 years old with Ewing sarcoma.
Okay.
And we just kind of were just a part of Dance Marathon and the Children's Miracle Network ever since then, so we would just go to a bunch of their events.
Okay. So at 3, diagnosed with cancer, and then...
Yep. So they removed a finger.
Yep.
And then she had 14 doses of chemo. Then roughly about a year, she got sick a bunch. So we spent a ton of time up at the Children's Hospital, but then got connected with Dance Marathon. The Alumni Association and the Children's Miracle Network would do these events at football games, and they would bring in Iowa players.
Yeah, kind of
They would sign
stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so round one, how old are you when you first met George then?
8.
About 8.
I think this was 10 years ago.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Okay. And you're how old now?
18.
18. Okay, so we have a 10-year run here, so this is a little bit of history. So, okay. All right, so that you meet that meeting and all that kind of stuff, so that's all well and good. And then take us then next, so we have a reoccurrence, right?
Yes.
So tell us about that. How long is that? And then where are you when you kind of re-encounter George again? How does that work?
I think it was a year later through Dance Marathon. They would do, they would bring the football players up and they would have signed posters and stuff up there as a little event or whatever. And we saw George there again and just, kind of reintroduced ourselves and everything.
And she had painted him a picture, or colored him a picture the year before, and he said it was hanging right up in his dorm room. And once she heard that, then she became the biggest George Kittle fan in the world, and has been the biggest George Kittle fan ever since. We watched him at the combine. We watched him at the draft. we couldn't wait to see George up on screen. And I think we had met him a couple other years in dance marathon as well. One year, Sarah didn't meet him because we were meeting her nurse that she had when she was 3.
Yes.
But Elizabeth, her younger sister, met George, and I think it might have been CJ.
It was CJ Beathard
And
a cousin
yeah.
of George? Cousin of CJ, I can't remember.
Yeah, Hawkinson was up there, and she covered them in princess stickers
Or frozen
everywhere. Was it frozen tattoos? Okay, but and, yeah, we weren't there. But basically, they missed their bus because she was dragging them around all over the dance marathon event and got them in places that they weren't supposed to be. But
Okay, so now kind of 10-ish. So there's another diagnosis though eventually, right?
yep,
Okay,
here at
so
18.
At 18, okay.
Well, 17.
17,
17.
technically.
Okay, well, when was it that we did the call from Nashville?
That was in June.
Okay, well, what was going on then? That was,
So she had completed all of her treatments at that point for the DSRCTs, and then while she was getting the treatment for the DSRCTs, they found out she had thyroid cancer as well. So she's had 3 different cancers in her life. She had finished the radiation, I think had finished the surgery, and was just recovering from the surgery from the thyroid removal.
The surgery didn't happen yet. That happened in July.
So, okay, so it was before the thyroid surgery. And just we got talking with different groups about what you want your wish trip to be, and all along it was
Kathy.
maybe London, right? But more if possible, she wanted to come out and see George.
Yeah, I heard there was
a
Second Wish sports group, and I was instantly, when I heard that, I was like, oh, go to the 49ers game, meet the team.
It's Varsity Project out of Kansas City.
Yep.
okay. Well, so this is Cancer Awareness Month, October, and then obviously we all got our hats on. So the crucial catch, the NFL is also promoting the cancer pieces all the time. So I guess one of the things that the stories that we've been listening to have been about kind of the impact on families. So you have the patient, obviously, and you're from a small child up until in this stage, and so you've been through quite the rigors, and then as the family as well, your parents and your siblings and all that. So tell us a little bit, kind of from your perspective, what it was like to go through all that, and kind of how you're feeling and where you're at today.
I always had a positive mindset because I know for a fact if I had a negative one, I would get nowhere. And getting the second diagnosis, I just wanted to eat it even more, I guess, because it happened twice. So, technically it was uncurable, or still is, but it just gave me twice the motivation to beat it.
Okay.
Well, and to add to her story, when we got the diagnosis, and it took a little while from the biopsy till we got it, and I was researching liver sarcoma, or kidney sarcomas, and it kept going to this DSRCTs, but it was super rare. And when we first got part of the biopsy results, it said it's an 85% chance of reoccurrence of the Ewings. But then we got the diagnosis that it was DSRCTs, which is desmoplastic small round cell tumors.
Okay.
So easy to say, slides right off the tongue. But it's not considered curable. They use the other sarcoma treatments as a treatment. The doctors gave her the option to not even get the treatments because the doctor, and he's one of the most positive people in the world, said the results are mixed.
Yeah.
Right, which means we don't have a lot of hope for it. But we were devastated, and I just remember one time sitting in our living room, and she's like, Dad, just don't worry about it, right? Don't be upset about it, right? I knew a couple years ago I was probably going to get cancer again, so I'm ready for it. And besides, I'm going to be part of one of the groups that's going to find a cure for this DSRCTs, right? And that was her attitude. And I'm like, okay, if she's ready to tackle this, I can't mope. Right, I can't mope. I listened to a podcast, and it was a brain surgeon, and he just talked about he dealt with terminal brain diseases, and when he got this diagnosis, when he saw this scan, he knew when the end of their days were. Right, and he said he kind of got depressed in his own practice.
Yeah.
But then they started doing all this statistical research that showed that a positive attitude goes a long ways, right? And you have a better chance of survival if you have a positive attitude. And then also people with positive attitudes that have hope that's based on faith had even higher numbers, right? And I listened to this podcast and I'm like, okay, we're going to stay positive. We created this Facebook group that's got over 1,000 members to it. And that's been just our approach. And she's so easy to cheer on because, she just has a no fear attitude towards all of it. So, yeah.
Well, how about this side of the table? So, Rach, tell us a little bit about your kind of journey on this. So, that's one of the things about it. So, at least we learned that all patients are a bit different, and the family members within, that are going along with them. And so, what's your experience with all this? And there's obviously been some highs and lows and those kind of pieces. So, give us a little feeling on that.
Yeah, I think and I'll even include their siblings in this. It has been quite the roller coaster. I mean, it's been a much different life. But Sarah makes it very easy at the same time. As you were talking, it took me back to when she was 2 and she was getting her chemo, and it got really bad for a while. And just being at her bedside as a mom, watching my child go through, it was really hard. But I remember bawling my eyes out, thinking she was asleep, and she wasn't. And you just feel this little pat on my back, and she's like, "It's okay, Mama. Jesus is gonna take care of it." And we do have a very strong faith, but just seeing how we pass that on, but not all of that is of us. That's definitely at that age the understanding she had of her faith was much different than most people. And
she would also pack her suitcase every night before chemo when she was little because she was going to her hospital. And she was the lucky one that got to go to the hospital. The other 2 younger kids were the unlucky ones because they had to go to a babysitter.
Yeah.
So it just, her attitude's been just whatever's in front of me, okay, let's go tackle it. Let's go knock it out of the park.
Okay.
yeah.
So take us from the pat on the back. And we got past that, and she was 13 years cancer-free. So she had a pretty normal upbringing, like elementary school to high school, middle school, in there. But the last year, almost more than a year, we found out that she was in softball. She made a diving catch out in right field, and she got up, and I don't even think we were at that game.
No, you weren't.
No, we weren't. We were somewhere else. We were traveling with the team, so she came home, and I remember her saying, "Mom, my side hurts really bad." And unfortunately, we had moved during COVID. My husband lost his job, and we moved over to Des Moines, but we didn't have the connections in Des Moines for her care, and she's out 10 years out of cancer-free, and at that point we were doing long-term care with someone at the university, Dr. Terry, and but in Des Moines we couldn't get into the other cancer hospital, being on the phone constantly trying to figure out, okay, something's wrong here. We went to her regular doctor, and she's like, well, okay, they were gonna send her over to a specialist, and thinking it was just a kidney issue. And there's just, I don't know, something in the back of my mind was just like, this isn't right. So, but we finally got directed to Dr. Tomlinson in Des Moines, and he had been, he had worked at both the Children's Cancer Hospital and the adult, and so he seemed like the right fit to send her to. And he went and got the CT scan, that first that first visit, like literally he was pushing around. He's like, I need to see what's going on inside. And so, and then it came back that she had cancer again. And it was very devastating to all of us. But again, the attitude and the faith that she had going through this is that she's carried has just been inspiring to me as a mom, and but I'm gonna keep crying if I keep talking.
Well, that's okay. So you're good. Well, I guess one of the things one of the things so for families and for patients, I mean, I think is the gap in between, even though you're kind of living a normal life and you're always doing all that kind of stuff. It's just like there's still a few rocks in the backpack. You know,
every scan you get nervous. You start worrying days
Every
ahead of
year,
time. Even when the scans come back clean, it's just always in the back of your mind. You're always concerned.
Yeah. So then take us. So had a diagnosis then, and so then and how long? So that's like a year ago, or how far back?
15 months ago.
15 months. Okay.
Yeah.
So walk us through that whole piece. Then what happened after that?
So they decided, since we got the CT scan, they decided, because it was in my kidney and I have multiple lesions in my lungs, they decided to take out my kidney because that was about the size of a softball, and take a biopsy of a couple of my lung lesions just to see kind of what cancer it is so they can get started on treatment and everything. And they took out my kidney because it just wasn't functional at all. They couldn't retrieve anything from it. So they sent that off to pathology, and we were hoping that it was Ewing sarcoma because there was more chance that it would that I would relapse from that. But it turns out when we got the call that it was DSRCT, and then I think a couple weeks later we just started doing chemo.
Okay. So it was a tough diagnosis. Okay.
It was.
Yeah, the DSRCTs has only been diagnosed in, the research I saw was from 4 years ago, but there'd only been 220 some diagnoses then. Super, super rare. And when you try to research it, nobody was surviving it.
Yeah. Okay. So great news. Super. Great treatment plan. We know exactly what we're doing. All right. But so you go through the chemo, and then I just, like and you and I started talking about a week and a half or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, and I go, well, tell me a little bit what's going on, because it's kind of Make-A-Wish. You're kind of thinking, Make-A-Wish is not always the best. It's kind of tough. And well, let me tell you. And so then you're kind of running through that, and so you're sitting there at a softball game, and she's out playing softball. Well, she can't be feeling too bad. No, she's actually feeling good. So walk us through. And I think that same week we were talking last week, you just got the scans back, and I think everything had reduced significantly. Or to walk us through that whole thing.
The crazy thing, right? It's not supposed to be treatable. They're not expecting great results. And the surgeon talked to us afterwards, and she had a tumor in her left lung, and it was sitting close to a tube and close to the lung wall, and apparently the lung split into 3 different sections. They were hoping that the tumor would shrink enough so that they wouldn't have to take out a third of her lung.
Yeah.
Right? That was their goal. So she goes through, does 2 rounds of chemo, they do the scan, and I was working, they called me, and the surgeon or the radiologist that was presenting it was giddy on the phone call. Right, because all of her tumors had shrunk significantly, and with the PET scans, what we saw, it's just magnitude of brightness that's on there. But this tumor actually looked like a morel mushroom at that point, where there's all these dark pockets with this really bright. She had something like 12 other tumors in various parts of her body, and they had all been decreased brightness. So they kind of got some hope. She went through 2 more rounds of chemo. They do the scans, and the scans came back clean. There was no sign of tumor in her body. And of all the people that had went through this, that had not happened to a single person. Everybody needed some sort of radiation, some sort of surgery to deal with the metastatic cancer that was in her body. Right, so super happy we got our hopes up, except for after the first set of scans, they found out that she had thyroid cancer as well.
Right.
So now she's diagnosed with the third cancer. So after the full scans, they wanted to continue to do the chemos, because that was what the protocol was. They tend to do everything textbook, follow the protocol. But her numbers started getting really high. So the chemo was damaging the one kidney that was left.
Yeah.
So they had to stop doing the treatments. But they were pretty happy about that, and then they were going to do a round of radiation just to make sure that there was no floater cancer cells in her body. And then, yeah, it was just crazy. So they did the thyroid. We talked to George on the Zoom call. That was awesome. Right between the last radiation and the thyroid, they basically removed her whole thyroid. So she's had 2 major surgeries with this. We got through the radiation. We're thinking things were good. They had another scan at the end, and then they ended up finding 4, they called them tumors in her body. One of the tumors looked exactly like the tumor that she had, the one that had shrunk. So at that point, we talked to the radiologist. It wasn't the normal radiologist, and he's just super blunt about it. And we were just, both of us were in bawling there, going up and meeting with her oncologist. They're bawling, but basically then they gave her a terminal cancer diagnosis at that point.
So when's that?
2 months ago?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, so right after softball season.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So we're kind of there, now we're back down. You're right in the classic cancer roller coaster.
Yep, and that
Yeah.
totally devastated us.
Okay.
Right, and it devastated her doctors, because her oncologist had been talking to her about getting her as an internship into, because he's a research oncologist as well, and his specialty is sarcomas. So he was talking about doing that, but that he scheduled another scan, a couple biopsies, another scan, but all of that was on hold. He thought he knew the treatment plan for DSRCTs, and it wasn't anything to cure it, but basically it's protein blockers that would basically just try to keep the tumors from growing.
Okay, so that's 2 months ago.
Yep.
And now here we are. So what's been going on in the last 2 months? Do you want to give us a little update?
Yeah. So for some of the lesions, there was one lesion in my lung, and then there was a lesion on my pelvis. And they decided to do some biopsies just to make sure, if it was the same cancer, because honestly, at this point, who knows?
You had 3 already.
Right.
So they went to do the lung biopsy, and both of the biopsies hit me pretty hard. And I was being a full-time college student at this time and keeping a 20-hour job. Don't know how I did it. But I went to do the biopsies, and when the results came back, they were both negative. There was no cancer from the biopsies at all. They said that they got good tissue and everything, but it really just affected my body really bad, and I just couldn't do much. Like, I was on bed rest for like a week for both of them.
And even though they're not considered, they don't have to open her up, they're digging.
They're still,
They're digging pretty good, going in with a needle and doing that stuff. So yeah, she was in a lot of pain and discomfort from both the biopsies.
Okay. But the results back was good.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no cancer. There's.
Yep, and then they did another. They did another CT scan, and after the biopsies came back, the doctor was like, "Well, we're not going to change the diagnosis, right? It's just we're going to keep at it. We still think it's cancer."
Yeah.
So they did a CT scan again 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, a week ago, and we sat with her doctor, and the results. She gets the results before the doctor do, but it said it was stable, right? So we sat down, and the doctor started going through, and he started comparing the scans side by side, and he was getting kind of bouncy and stuff, and they're shrinking. So with no treatment receiving, her body's healing whatever those lesions are. They were sure that they're cancerous, but the biopsies showed that they weren't, and the fact that her body's actually fighting them or healing those areas it's again, they keep joking that she just rewrites the rules, right? Everything that The textbook treatments, the textbook solutions, she breaks all the rules.
I said I'm gonna write my own textbook.
There you go.
Yes.
Well, good. Well, okay, so here we are, and then we were able to get you up to the Niners. You guys had that set up, and the U of I helped us with that a little bit, and then got on site, and so the staff here has been terrific. So just let me, I guess for you guys, I guess I had two questions. One, in either order, but like, what are some lessons for you in all of this? And if you're talking to some other families that are in the midst of this, what might your suggestions be? What would you tell folks in the midst of this battle? Because we know lots of folks are in the middle of kind of where you guys have been and come out of. But so what lessons have you guys seen or kind of learned yourselves, and what would you encourage or at least offer to other folks?
I feel like first you have to have your faith in something or have a positive attitude to it. And second, you just gotta be patient, which that's been a thing that I've had to learn personally. I'm not a very patient person. And so sometimes I would struggle, just be like, what's going on? Is this, because I try to think very scientifically, similar to my doctors, and sometimes there's just no scientific answer to it. Mm-hmm. So then I just have to be patient just to see where it goes, if there's no hypothesis of what happened.
Yeah. And waiting in those moments is really tough. Mm-hmm. That's where your mind kind of takes you away, and it actually feels like it adds to the anguish a little bit. You almost make it worse on yourself because you start worrying about all the things it could be, even though you don't know, because the doctors don't know, the science won't tell you, and you're just in that uncharted waters, and there you are. Yeah.
Someone told me this in my past, and I just passed it on to her during that time because she was really frustrated. I just want to know what's going on, and you have to leave room for God. He's bigger than anything, and I just know that through our prayers, the many thousands of people that are praying for her, I think that honestly in my heart, that is why her diagnosis is different. And I don't mean that towards people that don't believe. I'm just saying that
God just met us in so many different ways. And as I was sharing earlier, there was a time where I was wrestling with the diagnosis because we thought maybe and again, I don't quite understand the science behind it. She'll talk to her oncologist all the time about it, but apparently with some of the DSRCTs, there's two different proteins that are connected at a cellular level. With her, there's only one, but not the other one, or you have two, and sometimes there's only one. Whatever it was, I didn't quite understand, but we thought maybe you would...
Do you want me to explain it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so basically...
you're the science.
So basically, there's 3 proteins. So basically, you have the Ewing sarcoma and Waul's tumor, which are connected to make normal DSRCT, technically.
Okay.
But I have this extra protein, which was confusing the pathologist, because normally people with DSRCT don't have it. And I guess there are 4 proteins, because I am missing a protein in my cells somewhere that's caused the cancer to happen in the first place.
Okay.
Yeah. But then they were kind of stumped, so we thought, maybe this isn't the diagnosis, because of the extra protein.
Right.
But
So, and when we thought maybe it was going to get moved back to Waul's tumor, that they have a treatment plan for that. That is considered, it's a slower cancer, right? The DSRCTs is super aggressive. But I was just wrestling with God in that, and he just said, calm down, right? And it wasn't an audible voice that I heard, but something very deep in my heart. He just said, I'm bigger than the doctors. I'm bigger than this cancer. You're going to see me do something that you're going to know it's me, right? And for her, when she was going through it, even though the cancer, the chemo was hurting her kidneys, her body was tolerating it way better. And the nurses would just laugh because as soon as we would go up for either an inpatient or outpatient, she'd immediately say, what are we ordering? What are we getting delivered? So we had Happy Joe's and Panda Express door dashed every week that we were up there, right? And all the other teenagers, they're very depressed, everything else, right? But she's just like, when are we eating, right? So she just had that attitude all the way through. But anyway, it was just great to see. I thought God was going to answer that by just her not being devastated from the chemo through that. I wasn't expecting the clean scans, right? And when the clean scans came through, I just knew that that's how God he had fulfilled his promise. Right?
So, your message to folks who are in the middle of this?
A couple different things. One, lean into God, right? He's there. He's a personal God. He does do miracles still. He does do healing. There's a Hebrew word for God, and it's Jehovah Rapha, and it's God is healer, right? And I shared it with a cancer family this week who their daughter was going through her CT scans for a kidney tumor, and I shared it with her, right? He's not done with Lauren's her name. Jehovah Rapha is not done with Lauren, and her mom really appreciated that. So again, lean into God and use the people that God give you, right? There's so many people that fundraised for us, so many people that provided encouragement through her Facebook page. Every time we provided an update, there's 100 people offering up prayers right there. So people, especially for kids, they rally around that, right? Don't circle your wagons. Don't try to do it all your own, right? Don't think that people don't want to be burdened by your burden, right? People love to help people. Yeah. Yep. Okay. And we've seen the best of humankind over the last 15 months.
Right. Even in the midst of it could be a tragedy, but at times it does pull people together, and we do see the good in people. So
now you're crying.
All right. Well, so I guess thank you for sharing that. Yeah. I guess, Sarah, you're the middle of this circle for us. Is there anything you'd like to close with, either encouragement to folks in the midst of this, or just anything else you want to add or say?
Just if you are suffering in any way, especially going through diagnosis like this, reach out to someone.
Yeah, don't do it alone.
Yeah.
Okay, there's help out there, and people want to be there with you. So, all right. So, any wrap up? I don't want to cut anybody off, but I know we can kind of get that out there. So, well, we were very excited when we heard you guys were coming, and it's been an important kind of component for George. You know, and it's just that relationship and the length of it, and the recoveries, and then relapse, and that whole kind of story and all that kind of stuff. So, we're very grateful that this worked out, and so hopefully all that good mojo will also result in a Niner victory on Sunday. So we're still pulling for that. Although we got Kevin out of the closet as a hardcore Dallas Cowboy fan. So we're in the 49er thing. We spent a little extra time near the Dwight Clark.
For at least 45 years.
We spent a little time near Dwight Clark.
It was
making the catch.
It was very therapeutic.
We kind of wanted to make sure he saw that. He had to relive that moment. Actually, it was funny. We talked on the phone the other night, and both of us had really clear, vivid memories of exactly where we were when we watched it on TV when it happened. So I still remember, and I was like, yeah, because my mom hated the Cowboys, and he's a big Cowboy fan, so very different.
I cried as a 7-year-old.
So it was all good. But anyway, so history tomorrow as the Chiefs roll in. So we're grateful you guys are going to be here. You guys are all sitting together. We'll have you down on the sideline before the game, so it should be really fun. It should be a great thing, so we're looking forward to that. So we thank you very much.
Thank you.
Offer blessings.
Yes, thank you.
George, and it's been a great couple days.
You guys just stand in the back there so everybody can see the whole crew here just for a sec.
Hurry up.
They're all lounging.
I know,
the teenagers do.
Hard to mic 6, so we just
Hello.
So the fam's in, super excited. There we go.
The other side.
Perfect.
Boys,
Slide.
let her in.
Slide.
That's all good. So anyway, all right. So we thank you. Emmy, you good? All right. So
thank you.
I guess that's a cut. So we'll go 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys. All righty. That was quite a show. So I hope you guys enjoyed it. And this is week 7. Niners are coming up on Sunday and playing the Chiefs. And we had a great intro with that with Greg Olsen and George. So thank you very much to Greg for joining us. And we look forward to seeing him here on location as he comes in with Fox Broadcasting to do the color for the game. So that's pretty cool. Great conversation about transitions and setting things up and all of those kind of things. I was recording the. Okay. I just paused.
You didn't stop anyway.
I was about to hear.
Hi.
Wait, it's not.
It is. It's still going.
I was trying to.
Good morning, everybody.
Hey guys, this is the closing of the Hidden Pros podcast for week 7.
Action.
We got Jet. Yeah, George is here. So anyway, he's about to hop in the pool. Anyway, he's getting ready to go in. There we go. And we are loaded. So we hope you enjoyed Greg Olsen. George, what'd you think of Greg?
Greg's fantastic. He's actually if he's a football dad of mine. He's a football father.
There's no doubt. So
He's good at it.
Yep.
Let's go get in the pool. Get cold today. Make yourself uncomfortable. Have some fun. Get better.
yeah.
Be great.
There we go. So we got the whole crew coming out here. So anyway, that's the podcast show. So you got Greg with the conversations about transitioning into broadcasting. You got George walking around kind of in the old swimsuit thing, which is always good. There you go. And talking about the Niners v Chiefs and his transition and TJ and heart condition. So we're grateful for that. And then the Waul family. So thank you to Sarah and to Kevin and to Rachel and all of them for sharing their story and being here with us on site with the Niners and making wish and dreams come true. So heart goes out to everybody that is dealing with cancer. And we're praying for you and holding you and wish you very well. And remember, no matter what you're going through, whether it's mental health, physical ailments, whatever it is, you're not alone. There is help. Join a community and be together. And as always, if you are so inclined, please give us a review and rate us and all that kind of stuff, as all that helps us reach more people. So again, connected with people through storytelling, trying to help heal and serve the world. And you have a great weekend, have a great week, and talk soon. Thank you.